How do we, as people, really confront those big, unpredictable crises? The moments that just completely shatter our routines and force us to reevaluate everything, our lives, our connections. Well, today we're embarking on a really compelling deep dive. We're looking at Albert Camus's profound 1947 novel, The Plague. And this isn't just some old story about an epidemic. It's a timeless allegory. It offers some surprising insights, actually, into the collective human experience. Maybe even a kind of blueprint for navigating chaos, you know. So we've gathered your sources on this classic, our mission, to pull out the most important nuggets, unpack the storyline, its symbols, and really why it still matters so much today, especially for you navigating, well, everything modern life throws at us.
It is remarkable, isn't it, how a book nearly 80 years old just keeps resonating. It reveals these enduring truths about human nature, resilience, and our responsibility, really, when faced with things we just can't explain. We'll try to connect the dots, from its specific historical roots to that powerful universal message about being human under pressure.
Okay, let's really get into this. Albert Camus himself, he was such a pivotal figure in developing ideas like existentialism, that whole idea that we're free, maybe even forced, to find our own meaning in a world that doesn't just hand it to us, and absurdism, too, which is, well, Camus' unique take on that clash, the clash between our deep need for meaning and the universe just being indifferent.
Yeah, exactly. His background really shaped how he saw the world. And The Plague directly reflects those ideas. When we talk about absurdism, it's that exact clash you mentioned, humans searching for meaning and the universe just silent. And existentialism suggests, okay, despite that silence, we have to create our own meaning through our choices, our actions, especially in a crisis.
Right.
The novel came out in 1947, and yeah, it's almost always read as an allegory for the Nazi occupation of France. Which raises a fascinating question, doesn't it? How can a fictional plague stand in for something so real, so oppressive, like the occupation?
How does it manage that?
Well, I think it works by transforming the literal disease into this powerful symbol, a symbol for the moral, the physical challenges of tyranny. Kind of strips everything else away, leaving just these raw, basic human reactions to an overwhelming, incomprehensible force.
Okay, so understanding Camus's perspective, his worldview, it makes the story itself feel even more potent. Let's dive into the narrative then.
Yes.
The Algerian city of Oran, this is where the crisis begins, right? Suddenly, mysteriously.
Yes, and it starts subtly, almost unnoticed at first. Dead rats appearing in the streets.
Dead rats.
Just rats. And that subtlety is key. Because the authorities, their initial response, it's denial, a refusal to see how bad it really is. There's this slow, sort of agonizing dawning of the crisis, which eventually forces them to quarantine the entire city completely.
Right. Just imagine that, being totally cut off.
The sense of isolation, and entrapment.
Yeah.
It's palpable. What Camus captures so well is that psychological shift. From annoyance, maybe, to this creeping dread as the walls, metaphorically and literally, go up.
That feeling of being cut off.
Yeah.
It just sounds terrifying. The psychological toll must be immense. How does he show that?
Through the characters, mainly. The human cost is immense. We see it through Dr. Rieux. He's the main character, and the other citizens battling this thing. There's so much loss, so much grief. But, and this is crucial, amidst all that suffering, you see this quiet resilience emerge. Unexpectedly sometimes.
Resilience, right?
People finding ways to cope, to resist, sometimes just to continue, even when it all feels hopeless, absurd.
And how does it end? Does the plague just go away?
Well, it eventually declines, yes. The city reopens. But, and this is really important, it's not a simple happy ending. It's not like things just snap back to normal.
Ah, okay.
What's fascinating is the aftermath. The lingering questions. What was gained? What was lost? How are people changed forever? The city has scars. The people carry this deep shared experience that completely alters how they see life.
And these big philosophical questions, they're embodied in the characters, right? To really get Camus' message, we need to look at the individuals. So, Dr. Rieux, he's the narrator too, isn't he? A dedicated doctor just committed to fighting the plague. Action, compassion.
Exactly. His whole philosophy seems to be just doing his job, even when it seems futile. That's where his strength lies.
Then you got Rieux. He's more complex, maybe.
Yeah.
A moralist looking for meaning, like a saintliness without God. He jumps right into the fight, too.
Right. Searching for meaning in the suffering itself. And Rambert, the journalist, his journey is fascinating.
Yeah, he just wants out at first, right, to get back to his loved one.
Absolutely. But he goes through this profound change. He ultimately chooses solidarity, staying with the quarantined city over his own personal escape.
That's powerful. And Father Panelou, the priest.
Yes, the Jesuit priest.
Ah,
His sermons are key. They show his evolving views on faith, suffering, God's will, views that get seriously challenged, even shattered as the plague rages on.
so each character really shows a different way of responding.
Precisely. Different facets of the human spirit under duress. Rieux's humanism isn't about big heroic gestures. It's the quiet dignity of just resisting evil through work, through compassion.
Quiet dignity, I like that.
Theroux's quest, that secular sainthood, shows you can fight for good without needing some external divine command. It's an internal drive.
And Rambert?
Rambert's choice is huge. It highlights the personal cost, but also the maybe unexpected reward of choosing community over self. And Peneleu, his struggle with faith is agonizing. It shows how even our deepest beliefs get tested, reshaped by suffering that just doesn't make sense.
Which brings us back to the absurd. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. The novel basically throws this meaningless, indifferent disaster at people. No divine explanation, no clear reason. So if life is absurd, if suffering doesn't have some grand purpose, how do people find meaning? How do they even find a reason to keep fighting?
And that leads straight into the next big theme, solidarity, humanism. Camus makes a powerful case for collective action, for mutual aid, especially when things fall apart. The crucial insight, I think, is that human dignity, for Camus, doesn't come from finding cosmic meaning. It comes from compassion, from actively resisting suffering, fighting injustice, regardless of whether you win.
So it's about the struggle itself.
Yes. It forces us to ask, what is our responsibility to each other when the universe seems indifferent? It's about fighting the good fight, not for guaranteed victory, but because it's the human response, an act of defiance against that very absurdity.
And the quarantine itself, that raises stark questions about isolation versus freedom, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It radically changes relationships. It forces these gut-wrenching choices. Individual freedom or collective well-being, your escape or standing with others in a shared fate.
Tough choices.
And the plague, the symbol itself, it's so potent, not just disease. It stands for war, fascism, oppression, even just, moral apathy, passivity.
So it's a metaphor for evil, basically.
In a broad sense, yes, an ever-present, impersonal kind of evil. What's chilling is how it suggests fighting this plague is a constant struggle, a moral imperative. It's like Sisyphus, always pushing the boulder.
It demands eternal vigilance.
Exactly. Against all forms of indifference and cruelty that threaten us.
So, thinking more about symbolism, the plague isn't just a disease. It's oppression, suffering. What else? Does the setting itself, Oran, symbolize something?
Oh, definitely. Oran becomes this microcosm of the world, a sort of closed stage where people's fundamental reactions to crisis are just laid bare, no escaping it. It forces people to confront their own humanity, stripped of all the usual distractions.
And the rats. They're more than just carriers.
I think so. They're like the first horrifying signs of this unseen evil, a subtle invasion that quickly spirals into catastrophe, the mundane becoming monstrous.
And you mentioned the tension between faith and science earlier. Rieux, the doctor, Peneleu, the priest. They represent these contrasting ways of dealing with suffering, right?
Very much so. Rieux relies on action, on reason, on what he can do. Peneleu initially searches for divine meaning, for God's plan within the horror.
So what does Camus suggest about these different approaches? Is one better?
It's less about better and more about showing the different ways humans try to make sense of catastrophe. Do you look for ultimate meaning beyond? Or do you focus on human action, alleviating suffering here and now, even without understanding the why? Camus seems to lean towards the latter, towards human action.
Which ties back to his philosophy of the absurd.
Precisely. The novel is a profound exploration of it. The real brilliance, I think, is the message that, okay, maybe life is cosmically meaningless. Fine. But human dignity, human meaning, that is found in compassion, in resistance against suffering and injustice. We create meaning through our conscious actions or solidarity. It's a defiant humanism.
And that is why it still hits so hard today, isn't it? During pandemics or any collective struggle, it teaches resilience, solidarity, personal responsibility, not as fuzzy ideals, but as concrete daily choices. It gives us a framework.
It really does. A framework for understanding our own experiences, the choices we make when faced with the inexplicable, the overwhelming.
It's truly one of the great works of 20th century existentialist literature.
Absolutely. A text that speaks to these fundamental human dilemmas that just don't go away. It asks us to look really hard at what defines us when everything else is stripped bare.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the plague doesn't give easy answers, does it?
Not at all.
But it offers this profound way of thinking about how we behave under extreme pressure. It reminds us of the choices we face and how our humanity is really forged in those moments of crisis.
And perhaps it leaves us with a challenge and something to think about. If the plague can take so many forms, disease, sure, but also fascism, hatred, even just everyday indifference, what are the plagues we need to resist in our own